Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts, Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we're reviewing The Tank from WellGo USA. It's not about a tank, it's about a tank. We'll explain that. All right, with me tonight is my host. Let me introduce Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. All
Excited
to be here.
He's great. All right, I love it. Also joining us this week is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. How you doing, Crystal?
I'm fabulous. So for a movie about a water tank, I really expected more water, but you know,
in the tank,
it's cool. Yeah,
yes.
Water in the tank, and I guess in the ocean.
Rains a lot.
But yeah, fair, sure.
Also joining us tonight is award-winning filmmaker Christopher
Dear
G.
God.
Mohr.
Yeah.
I had several beers before this, so I might be a little bit too tanked for the podcast.
Tanked?
But
Yes.
That's a good one. So many versions of tank.
Including the one with...
You know what's happening is
Did this movie tank?
I was gonna make an Eddie Murphy reference because he was in that movie Tank from like what was it, the 80s or 90s?
And then there was
don't know
Tank
that
Girl, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Lori
Tank Girl.
Petty. But that was in reference to an actual tank.
This is Tank Family, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just letting it go, folks, and we're just going to see where this road goes.
I think
That's
there's one with James Garner in it too.
Yeah, James Garner is. I think that's. Was that the one he was? Was Eddie Murphy in that one? Anyway, there's enough about crappy tank movies.
Well, we're going to review The Tank, which is a horror movie from writer-director Scott Walker. We're going to review it. We're going to start off giving our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free. And then we'll dive into discussions, and we will get into some spoilers. It's a monster movie, and we want to talk about that monster. Yes, we do. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. If you do, please, please, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend button. It's easy, free to do. Do it real quick. And each click will help us find more horror fans just like you.
Yep.
Otherwise, we'll put you in the tank.
All right, let's look at this.
I'm cool with that.
And the card, ladies and gentlemen. The Tank from WellGo USA 2023, available in select theaters beginning April 21st, available digital April 25th. Synopsis is set in the 1970s. The Tank is a story about a young family who inherits a remote and long abandoned coastal property in Oregon and awakens beneath it a horde of ferocious and deadly creatures. Academy Award-winning special effects supervisor and creative director Richard Taylor and his team from Peter Jackson's VFX studio Weta Workshop created the creature effects. Written and directed by Scott Walker. The cast includes Lucianne Buchanan, Matt Whelan, Zara Nosbaum, yes, Regina Heckerman, Jack Berry, Holly Shervey, and of course the creature effects by Richard Taylor at Weta Workshop. Cool. And it is great. I'm just going to start this off to have actual physical creature effects.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Was the whole thing? I think there was some CGI on the creature, the inside of it.
Oh, when it goes.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that too. I just think that needs to be said. I'm pretty sure that was CGI.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it could have been pulled off practically.
Just with air, it could work if they did it. They just blew it, and it was like.
That's what I'm saying. You just put like some kind of air thing behind it. I think you could make it vibrate like that. So with the whole vagina
really
mouth,
big bass speaker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but that would do the whole. That would do the whole thing, and the whole thing didn't vibrate. Just that, like flap did. Just
You
that.
guys look closer than I do.
Ah! All right.
Well, I
let's-
did like the creature. The creature's
let-
cool. Yeah.
There you go.
Mm.
Let's dive into our first impressions. Spoiler free, even though we've already dropped a few, but that's okay because it's a monster movie and you know it's a monster movie. Let's start off
You
with
know,
Jeff,
yeah, that's
Jeff
not-
Mohr. Jeff, what was
Oh.
your first impression of the tank?
I liked it. I found it interesting because when it first started off, I was thinking, oh, they're going away from some of these tropes, and but then they turned around and did other tropes. So a little give and take on the tropes or the obvious things. But I thought that the acting was good. I just saw, is it Lucian Buchanan is in The Night Agent, a short series that was on Netflix.
Oh, I love The
here
Night
in
Agent.
the last few weeks.
Mhm.
She's the woman that he's trying
She
to
is?
save all the time. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize it. Wow.
I sort of recognized her, but I was like, it wasn't real obvious. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I don't know what to say because I don't want to give too much away. Yeah, so I'll talk later about the different the
Oh.
decent suspense and the creature. Yeah, I like the creature, except I don't know. I texted Doc something, which I'll bring up later, but you don't see it for a while, which is fine with me. I like that.
Yep.
I think it's kind of good you don't.
Yeah. All right. Well, there. Don't bury the lead. Christopher G. Mohr, what is your first impression of the tank?
I think it has its moments. I mean the whole opening scene, it's like, let's give you exposition. and then it also happens throughout the movie. It's like, oh, don't let her in this shack because there's stuff that can be explosive. Wah wah. And so it's so obvious. And I think that's just bad screenwriting for me. And as much as I
So
like having cracked.
You didn't like Chekhov's manure?
Yes.
Yes, I didn't like Chekhov's manure.
I like it. Come on.
But I mean, no, it was okay. I mean, it's okay that became that, but it was so like winky. It was just so obvious. And that whole opening scene where they're talking with the guy about the house and stuff was like so overtly expositionary. My eyes rolled out of my head. Although I will say the guy that brings the stuff about the paperwork, he's actually in Evil Dead Rise. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, he plays a
The
character
attorney?
in the building. The attorney guy. He actually shows up as a guy in the building. The guy who actually, I guess, owns the building. But anyway, I mean, and I think it has some great moments. I mean, there's one moment that made me gasp because it kind of scared me. But then other moments, as much as I like that it's a practical creature and that it's made by Weta Workshop, it just looked like dollar store Demogorgon at points. It was just like a guy doing an interpretive dance in a morph suit with a monster head on. I didn't really like the monster as much. It seemed. I mean, there was moments it looked okay, but other moments it just like it looked like it was made more like a really low indie creator as opposed to somebody who's part of Weta Workshop. So I was kind of knowing that it was made by them actually made it even more disappointing for me.
No.
And I think that's maybe why I didn't show as much, because when you see it, so it was just like a god in a black suit with a big fake head, like I'm trying to do my best alien, and then some of the editing and stuff with the fighting and stuff just was it looked like, okay, we have limitations on this monster, and the editing was bad. But there was other moments that were kind of scary and creepy. And I think the actors did well, and it had some good production value with the location, especially the house with all the greenery around it and stuff, and the being near almost looked like the place near Goonies. Because I think it did take place in Oregon, so it almost felt like maybe this is where When I Willie fought the monster. But overall, I thought it had its moments, but I think even just there's like one person that's attacked that the camera work is just bad. It's just like, we're just going to shake the camera up and you're not going to see anything. So, and it wasn't until some other character gets attacked that you could see a little bit more. But even that was kind of like, So I don't know. Again, and again, I think that they really exposition. Well, this is a lizard, and this does this, and this does that. It's like, oh, good Lord, just stop. Yeah, so I enjoyed parts of it, but other parts of it were just kind of frustrating and kind of annoying, and that the dad is pretty much useless. But but that's just more of a story thing. Although I thought the wife was great.
Yes. All right, Crystal, what was your first impression of the tank?
Well, so I did mention that I like the creature, and I do. I like the creature. I don't disagree with Christopher that maybe it was. I think what they showed was probably the most appropriate because there were points where I could tell, obviously. But I am so thrilled that they made it practical. Anywho, I feel like this movie was very ambitious. I don't know how independent this film is, but having something go from 1946 to 1978 or whatever is rough. For some reason, I didn't really understand. I agree with him. I feel like there was a lot of exposition, and it was a little bit boring at first. Like, I felt it's not a slow burn per se, but there are some scares that don't really make any sense, like how the carpet in the floor moves when it's not really supernatural. There's some things that I'm just a little confused about. It doesn't mean that I wasn't entertained. Overall, I enjoyed the film. But I feel like some things were not completely cohesive with the entire journey. I mean, why did the floor move like that? Is it really like a hole in the floor like that? Because that's super dangerous. And is the creature really there or not? I don't know. And the whole thing about the story with the mom just seems odd and weird. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it, but that's okay. I think the acting was great from everyone involved. And yes, the mom was tougher than the father, but the father did a great job in his role. I love that the mom wound up saving everybody and everything, but it was a little odd in that last fight. It just felt like it was like all this build up, and then it just kind of just went away. It just ended. Seemed quick, but yeah. I think it's entertaining. I don't think that it pushed any boundaries. I feel like maybe they tried to do too much with what they had, which is fine. I get it. You want to make something, but it didn't quite achieve that level of. I can see where they were going. It's not gonna it's not gonna be a classic. That's what I'm saying. Sorry.
Not really classic, but it might be a good watch.
But it's good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, exactly.
So I had a good time with it, primarily because of the practical effects and some of the locations. I got very kind of claustrophobic when they were down the tank. I thought that was well shot. Even though sometimes they didn't have any source of light, but yet there was light. It's a movie. That's what
it's okay.
You got to do that, right? But the whole water thing and then crawling through the cave part kind of got me. But I pun intended, I found it a little long in the tooth. Right, at times, it just kind of meandered along and took a while getting to where it wanted to go. It's not that it wasn't doing anything; it just wasn't all that interesting.
Yeah,
it just was kind of like, okay, we know where you're going, go. But like you said, the cast is good. The location is fantastic. The tank itself is interesting. There's some things that happen that I wonder whenever it starts getting involved with cars, some of the stuff doesn't exactly make sense. Like, where is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Why in the car, out the car, in the car, out the car? Come on, what are you doing here? doesn't make any sense at all. Why don't you just get in the cop car? What's going on? I don't know. But in the end, I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
As a monster movie, and it reminded me while I was watching, reminded me of Humanoids from the Deep, the old '80s movie, except
But
without
it's not
the
rapey.
But no
Humanoids
TNA,
from the Deep is a rapey.
no rapey, no TNA. But you
Had
basically
a similar effects budget.
Well, it kind of feels that way, right? Practical monsters storming, coming out of the water and storming, and that's kind of what this does. So it's really reserved in that respect, but it reminded me of that regardless. All right, well, let's get into some discussion about some of the, we can get into spoilers. So if you're listening, we will be talking spoilers about the next 5-10 minutes, and then we'll wrap things up with our scores. I guess we should start with the special effects, because at times you can see that it's a person in a costume.
Yeah.
Doing.
I didn't have a problem with that.
Walk.
It was obvious, but I'm okay. I was like,
I'd
whatever.
rather have them do that than
CGI.
it. And
Me too.
Yeah, I remember thinking at one point, I said, Doc, a picture. It reminded me of like a giant salamander.
Yeah, me too. It's
although
funny.
the head.
Well,
and the
she did
mouth
say it was
totally
an amphibian.
Yeah.
Right. Like so.
I love the head.
that
I
makes
absolutely
sense.
love the head. I thought that was great. And I don't know what that little larva thing was. We never really got a good look at that. I don't think the first.
It was
thing
a baby,
finds,
right? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
That's
but it
what was
didn't look.
my understanding.
Yeah, it was like a tadpole version of the.
And they said like right there's where the
Yeah, but they
light
grow
will
up
grow.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So anyway, so I liked it. I mean, there was a couple shots. I think they could have maybe picked different angles so it didn't look so much like a man in a suit. But
I mean, outside of that, I really personally didn't have a problem with it.
Me neither.
Yeah. So Christopher,
Yeah.
what got you?
I don't know. I think again, it's that kind of weird thing. It's like you're trying to make this like a lizard, but it just looks like a guy in a wetsuit with a big head on it, a big monster head on his shoulders. And they're trying to do like that thing, but also like I mentioned, that's why I call it Dollar Store Demogorgon, because I feel like he had the similar type face that opens up like the Demogorgon in Stranger Things. And
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
And I mean, granted, I like the sort of what I call the vibrating vagina mouth thing, but it's I don't know. I mean, I thought it was an interesting. I give them props for a different type of monster face than you're normally seeing, and it does feel very lizardy. But I think you have to complete the package. You know what I mean? And I don't think you necessarily have to go CGI with it. And I know that Weta Works has some ability to do better stuff for that, but it's almost like they kind of like, okay, we'll just we'll put all their money in the head, but we're just gonna.
Well, they did.
Probably.
Well, they did
That's
have a
probably
couple
what
of them.
happened.
I mean, there was a couple
Yeah.
of them there.
But I will say, I mean, I will say like, there's moments like that, but then like there's one moment that actually scared me, and that's when the mom and the daughter are trapped in that room, and that one thing comes down out of the window.
Yep.
yeah,
It actually scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh, I was like, because I wasn't expecting to see that. So I think sometimes they made it kind of effective, but then also I think the way they made the head, it almost felt like Xenomorph. It felt very Aliens, and because of the blackness of the
Absolutely.
and so then it just made me compare it to like what they did with Aliens, because it's Aliens. I don't sit there saying that's a guy in a suit. It feels just like an alien, and I think somehow they kind of missed the ball with the completion of the whole creation. And again, you have to focus on more than just the head to pull that off, because again, that it just like, I'm sorry, the full body just looked dopey. It looked like he was going to do an interpretive dance scene in the middle of the movie. It's like, just don't even show all of it then, if that's the case. But then at the same time, it also got very, very annoying at the beginning. It's like when they kept pulling like the Jurassic Park stuff, like we're just going to move stuff past the leaves and do all this stuff. And that one scene where the woman gets attacked, some of the most shoddy camera work. It's like, we're just going to shake the hell out of this camera so we can hide the fact that we can actually show this thing grabbing this woman. It's like, come on, you have a bigger budget than a lot of indie films, and they do a better job of pulling that off than that specific scene is. Now,
You
when
talking
the,
about
when
in
the
the
cop,
tank?
no, when
he's
the
talking about
girls
the
walk,
realtor.
The realtor.
The
gets
realtor.
it,
the
yeah.
realtor's walking by to her car and she gets attacked.
Okay.
The camera's just all over the place. But yet when the cop gets attacked, at least that's a little bit better. At least we get to see, and I know they're trying to hide the fact, but we already know there's a freaking monster. So to at least show a little bit more. But shaking the camera all up, it's almost like, oh, we're losing light or whatever. Let's just shake the camera up. And it made it very shoddy. It was even hard to watch. I can imagine if you're watching it in the theater, you'd probably be like Blair Witch Project. You'd probably get sick from motion sickness. But yeah, so I don't know. It just didn't work for me. The creature as a whole. And I think and knowing that Weta Workshop did it just made me kind of even more disappointed the way it looks. Now I give them props. And I think they probably did. I feel like they might have pulled off the mouth practically. But I don't know. It just didn't work for me. And even when it was biting, it didn't even look like it was biting right. It was just, you know what I mean? It was almost like they just placed it on it. And I think that's when they would do the frenetic camera work. Especially the underwater stuff was crap.
Yeah, the underwater stuff, I couldn't see what was going on, but it was under dirty, murky water.
Well, you're in dirty
I'm
water, plus you're in a cramped space. I mean, by definition, you're not going to be able to see a long shot where you can see everything that's going on and see it underwater.
Well, but that's how they should have created the tank so you could.
Well, then you make it to where you can shoot in that space.
It's a movie,
yeah. That tank is not real.
That's what I'm saying. It should have been made differently. If we're really talking about filmmaking, like that's something you should overcome. Especially since the whole movie is called The Tank. So the tank is the number one thing in this film. So I have to agree with Christopher. You better make that tank proper, and you better be able to shoot it right. Otherwise, what's the point?
I thought it was fine. And what you're talking about with the shaky camera, I guess it didn't bother me because I don't remember it. I didn't notice that as being terrible, as just kind of a part of the way they were doing it. I don't know. What got me was they had all these tropes. Like, one of the things I really liked is they made it old enough in time that we didn't have to use
cell phones.
I can't get a signal. I can't get a signal. They've been doing that the whole show. So I really liked that they left that out. But then we turn around and have the, I'll get the car stuck. I get the car stuck trope. I get caught. So I don't know. There was a lot of stuff like that.
I yelled at them.
Flashlight batteries run down. That was another one.
The mom made me so mad because it's like, your husband just got attacked by a thing, and let me just park in the middle of the road. And it's like, go to the freaking hospital. Your husband might. How do you know he's going to be alive? He just got mauled by a freaking lizard man.
I will say though, on the positive side, that the abduction of the daughter. Even past the scene that you talked about where the creature came out of the window, but dragging it across the yard, and the husband has been mauled, and he's he can't save her because he's practically, like you said, he's dying, and I felt that was really tense. I really liked how they handled that scene.
Yeah, I felt like that worked. No, I think that worked okay. I mean, again, that they did a better job with that than they did with some of the other stuff. And I'll say, I mean, the whole tank aspect in itself is very creepy. Like, I understand, I felt like, and as someone that doesn't like to go out in the woods that much, I was just thinking, like, there's gonna be more than just lizard monsters in that. It's gonna be like water snakes, gonna be all kinds of things. And I was like, you couldn't pay me enough to go in that tank. I'm sorry. I like, you're gonna have to disown me as your dad. I'm not going down in that tank.
Here's some of what why I feel like they were trying for a bigger story. Like, so they dug this well over 100 feet deep, and that's how she was. And I'm assuming that's where these creatures were, and all this stuff. But yet she receives letters about stuff that's been, stuff that had been happening. I feel like some of the backstory, instead of focusing on that front end of this stuff, I think maybe them researching some of this more would have been more interesting.
I wasn't
and would have made the story bigger. as opposed to, you know, maybe finding out some other deaths besides just his family, you
Yeah,
know.
I was going to say the flashbacks with his parents and his sister didn't need to be so much. I mean, they overdid it. And if they could have, you know, because they gave
needed
us
to
the
fill in
exposition
time.
about the earthquake and everything, and you know, they could have given us some more you know, backstory on that or something about,
I mean, the
you know,
realtor came and talked. I mean, that would have been the perfect entry and segue into, like, I mean, like they normally do. They go to the library, they find these stories or whatever. I just feel like that would have been more interesting because I was like,
and once they got to the house, they never left it though.
And
yeah.
then it just didn't look, you know, it just didn't look like it was any different time period.
Okay. And see, yes, Christopher. And that's what's so hard about it. If you notice, she's in 1946, but when she rushes out to get in her vehicle, she's clearly not in a vehicle it's way older. I mean, maybe his parents didn't have much money, but they had like some Ford Model T or something and it's fine. They were just trying to make it look period. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like they wanted to tell this grandiose story without the budget. And sometimes you can get around that without.
Well, they sort of kind of did that by just limiting the locations and contemporary that time period.
What was it? 46, right?
Yeah, I was in 46.
Yeah.
Because you had that, they just limited to the being inside of that. Was it their animal store or whatever, and then when we go out in the woods to that building, and so you know, all you have is their clothing to sort of tell you what specific time period it is, but for some reason the flashbacks didn't feel
period
that's much different, and so it almost felt more contemporary than this.
Even though it was shot.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt weird because I think when it started, it's like I thought it was more contemporary, and then you're like, oh wait a minute, that happened in the past. It looked like it happened last week.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. We'll go in the same order. So I think that starts off with Jeff.
Yes, favorite scene. So it's not a great movie, but once again, for some reason, the stuff that you guys bring up didn't bother me near as much. I like the acting. So anyway, score, I'm giving it a 3.25. And favorite scene. Well, I'm sorry, since I'm going first.
Take it.
I'm taking the abduction of the little girl.
Okay.
That was a good scene. It was probably the highlight of the whole thing, I'd say. All right, Christopher G. Mohr, let us have it. What's your score and your favorite scene?
I will give it a
3.5 raspberries.
I'm debating between 2.75 or 3.
Oh wow! Okay.
I didn't realize.
That's better than I thought, actually.
Oh really? It's worse than I thought.
I'm gonna give it 2.75. I'm not gonna be nice. Well, I mean, I'm being nice. I'm being nice. I'm above.
Fine. Perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with
you
that.
do you.
No. I mean, I liked elements of it. You know, there are things that worked and things that didn't work. As for, I mean, I'm going to say before the abduction when the thing creeps in from the window. So I'm kind of cheating, but so I just like that shot where it comes in, where she's like trying to hold the door and then that thing comes down from the window to her. It was so creepy the way that was. And again, if they'd done more stuff like that, this film would be more than my rating. But yeah, I'll say that scene, it takes place before the Dollar Store Demogorgon steals the little girl.
Very good.
Dollar Store Demogorgon. Okay.
Crystal, score, favorite scene.
I'm giving it a 3.5.
Very good.
I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. I didn't hate it. It's just not it's not going to be classic. There's a lot of faults with it. I get it. I feel bad. I could tell they wanted to tell this big story and have it be this. And isn't that what every filmmaker wants? So keep on trucking with that. Okay, so my my favorite scene is at the end when it's the final, or almost the final, and the mom is in the tank. And I don't know why, but this is always a thing for me. They have it in Dragon Slayer. It's like I love seeing the creature like full on, but you see the creature's face and then he just goes underwater.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Those always jack me up, and I'm like, oh damn. Oh, and then she's like, trying. I'm like, no, f that. You can't see. You're screwed, girl. Like it's a water monster. You're just a human. So, yeah, that's it.
Yep. She had a little bit of movie superpowers. It seemed like she survived. Pitchfork. She survived more than her husband did.
Yeah, she did.
I'm going to give this a 3.25. I thought I actually liked it more than you, girls. About 3.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly good monster movie. It's not going to be the most memorable one, unfortunately, but at the same time, it is very serviceable, very watchable, very entertaining. And there's really cool creatures. So it does a lot of things right. And my favorite scene, I'm going to go very similar to yours. I was going to pick the scene where she's actually fighting with the pitchfork, but I'm going to where she just puts it all together, right? She's getting ready. She goes down there, just got like Clorox in her hand. She's got the thing on her arm, and she's got the pitchfork, and I mean, she's all suited up and ready to go, and be a badass trying to find her daughter down in there somewhere. Which I'm still trying to figure out how they got it back into the place they blew up. How'd they get her back into the place they blew up? I don't get it. I guess the manure wasn't that strong, right? But there you go. That's our review of The Tank, which is heading to theaters here very shortly. If not in theaters, you'll see it on VOD and then streaming eventually. So check it out and let us know what you think in the comments down below. We'd love to hear what you think of it. And what do you think of the monster and its salamandery squabble wobble thing? It was
dance.
It was dance is a good way to put it. It reminded me of what they were trying to achieve, or what it reminded me of was like the alien that was in that was like on that one ship, the last Alien movie where it was on the ship and getting the pilot. And,
it did look
because it had the same shoulder and arm.
Yeah, because it's this.
Yeah.
It's just that it was like on the, and that's why I was like, oh shoot.
I just got some performance artists to
I wonder if would it have worked if it just stood up like a human? Would that have worked?
Ooh,
add some fake legs in the ground would look better than that.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of why
humanoid.
Alien worked is that big tail. The tail helped a lot.
Sure. Yeah, it did. You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Jeff, I mean, how many old movies have we watched where they get the head right, and then the rest of the monster is like jeans and a shirt?
Actually, yes. What movie was it we were watching? Oh, yeah, it was a foreign poster for some Frankenstein movie, and he actually had him. He kind of looked like Elvis, and he had jeans and a shirt on. I gotta go look that up now.
Man! But I mean, not nowadays, but it used to happen a lot, all the way up through the 70s, even. So maybe even into the 80s. I could name a few. There's one with the big turkey head. But anyway, let's drop that, because that does a whole nother podcast right there.
Hey,
Christopher, Crystal, Jeff, thank you for joining me. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right,
always fun.
Good night.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.
I can't do that. I don't bend that way. Good night, everybody.